News, JIS News, a roundup of government lead stories for the week.
The government has announced that it will increase the personal income tax threshold to $1.5 million. This will be done in 2 phases starting July 1, 2016. Opening the budget debate in Parliament Thursday, Finance Minister Audley Shaw said effective July 1 this year, the personal income tax threshold will move to $1 million. The second phase will take effect April 1, 2017 and will move the threshold to $1.5 million. This will provide relief to some 251,000 PAYE workers.
This is 113,000 more persons who will benefit from this new threshold, plus some self-employed persons that will also benefit from the new threshold. So this is for people who are on the PAYE system. You're working, then take out your salary deduction for a fortnight, for a week, whatever.
The current income tax threshold is $592,300. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Audley Shaw says the government intends to finance the $579.9 billion budget through a mix of revenue, grants, loan, resources and inflows from the Petro-Carib Development Fund. Revenue and grant inflows for the year are estimated at $486.6 billion. Loan inflows expected from both domestic and external sources are projected at $89.4 billion, with $41.9 billion to be raised in the domestic market and $47.5 billion to come from external sources.
The government plans to issue treasury bills valued at $14 billion and other market instruments valued at $27.9 billion in the domestic market. External flows are expected from the multilateral institutions in the form of investment loans and budget support loans. Investment loan flows are also expected from the People's Republic of China.
Minister Shaw says total investment loans are projected at $17.6 billion, while $29.9 billion will come from budget support loans. Inflows from revenue, grants, loan resources and the Petro-Carib Development Fund total $590.6 billion. Another $10.6 billion is required to plug the budget gap. Cabinet has signed off on a 15% wage increase for early childhood teachers. The Ministry of Education says the increase will take effect this financial year.
At the cabinet level, we've signed off on a 15% increase for our teachers. And we have outlined an infrastructure budget that has increased this year, but I will tell you, there still needs more.
Junior Education Minister Floyd Green was speaking at the launch of Sagicor Foundation's Adopt a School program Tuesday. Mr. Green says the increase is being granted in recognition of the invaluable contribution of early childhood practitioners to the sector and to student development. He also lauded the efforts of the teachers, who he says often operate with limited resources and still manage to make the best use of what they have. And Prime Minister Andrew Holness has expanded the team tasked with investigating the collapse of a structure at the Royalton Resort and Spa in Negril, which resulted in injury to 5 workers. The Prime Minister on Wednesday met with several key ministers in the housing and environment industries to discuss the recent incident. In attendance were Minister without portfolio with responsibility for water and housing, Dr. Horace Chang, and Minister without portfolio with responsibility for environment, Daryl Vaz, as well as Local Government and Community Development Minister Desmond McKenzie. The expanded team now includes representatives from the Office of the Prime Minister, Ministries of Local Government and Labour and Social Security, National Works Agency, as well as National Environment and Planning Agency. The team will also investigate all major construction projects in the area to determine whether they are in keeping with the approved regulatory standards. Those were some of the top stories making news this week. I'm Lorraine Mendez.
The GOJ News Recap, weekends right here on this station. A production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
No longer do you have to wait 24 hours if you suspect your child is missing. The minute you realize your child cannot be accounted for is the minute to make a report to the police at 119 or the OCR at 1-888-PROTECT. Be sure to have a recent photograph of good quality to assist with identifying the child. And remember, you have a duty to inform us if the child returns home. If you fail to do so, your child may not be able to access crucial services or travel overseas.
I'm Lorraine Mendez with the JIS Evening News for Friday, May 13. Coming up, new income tax threshold to benefit all working Jamaicans. Several revenue measures proposed to fill deficit from increased income tax threshold, and full operations resume at the Princess Margaret Hospital. The news in detail after the break.
No longer do you have to wait 24 hours if you suspect your child is missing. The minute you realize your child cannot be accounted for is the minute to make a report to the police at 119 or the OCR at 1-888-PROTECT. Be sure to have a recent photograph of good quality to assist with identifying the child. And remember, you have a duty to inform us if the child returns home. If you fail to do so, your child may not be able to access crucial services or travel overseas.
Now the news. Finance and Public Service Minister Audley Shaw says the new $1.5 million income tax threshold is expected to have an all-around positive effect on all Jamaicans who are employed. The threshold will be increased in 2 phases beginning July 1. Mr. Shaw says over 250,000 taxpayers, including self-employed persons, will benefit directly and indirectly from $26.6 billion under the new threshold.
And these funds are being put back into the hands of people, and everybody ultimately is going to benefit, even those who don't directly get money by way of a payback because they are below the threshold.
The finance minister was speaking at a post-budget media briefing in Kingston Friday. In the meantime, Mr. Shaw says the rate of inflation is not expected to be significantly impacted by the $13.6 billion in new taxes. He says the ministry's technocrats who were consulted during the development of the package advised that the measures are nominally expected to impact inflation at just about 0.2%. Mr. Shaw also sought to allay concerns that the increased special consumption tax on fuel will spike electricity rates, noting that the tax only applies to fuel for motor vehicles. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Audley Shaw has proposed several new revenue measures expected to fill the $12.5 billion deficit from the increase in personal income tax threshold, which takes effect July 1. Opening the budget debate in Parliament Thursday, Mr. Shaw said the total tax package will result in surplus revenues of roughly $13 billion to go towards the 2017 income tax threshold increase to $1.5 million.
When considered in its totality, this change that we are making in the structure of our tax arrangement shifts more of our taxes to indirect or consumption taxes and away from the income or direct tax.
Among the measures to fill the gap is a $7 per litre increase in the special consumption tax SCT on petrol, expected to yield $6.4 billion. This became effective Thursday, May 13. A special consumption tax regime for liquefied natural gas, LNG, and revision of the heavy fuel oil regime will also yield $1.4 billion. To gain another $574 million in revenue, there will be an increase in the rate of the SCT per stick on cigarettes from $12 to $14. Additionally, departure tax will be increased from $20 to $35, yielding $5.3 million in revenue. The National Housing Trust, NHT, is expected to spend $23.6 billion on housing and other capital expenditure this year. Finance Minister Audley Shaw made the disclosure as he opened the budget debate in the House of Representatives Thursday.
The Trust will pursue the development of a mix of houses and residential lots in 42 developments across 11 parishes and is projecting to write new mortgages totaling approximately $16 billion.
Some 9,000 housing solutions will be completed this year under the NHT's medium-term housing program. And the operating theatre at the Princess Margaret Hospital in St. Thomas started offering emergency services on Thursday. The theatre was closed for repairs following a fire on May 2. Southeast Regional Health Authority Sarah, Parish Manager for St. Thomas, Colleen Wright, says refurbishing work is complete, but elective surgeries will resume on Tuesday, May 17.
The sanitizing of the recovery area at the Princess Margaret Hospital's operating theatre is now complete, and so service delivery from the theatre has started. We have completed the works in the surgeon's change room where the fire had started and was contained. This place has been completely refurbished. So we are back up and running now.
Based on the investigations by emergency personnel, a system overload was determined to be the cause of the fire. That was the JIS News. I'm Lorraine Mendez.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service.
Hi, it's DJ Babacho, also known as Babacho, and we are listening to Center X radio station. Yeah, that's why you should be listening right now.